It's your boy, James Fraser, host of the Northern Knock podcast, the podcast bringing a spotlight to the best of the best when it comes to Canadian door knockers. And boy, do we have a special guest for you today. We broke the rules on this one. This guy doesn't have an ounce of Canadian blood in his body. He's fully American. But what he did this summer was so significant and so unbelievable that I had to ask him on the podcast. And I'm really excited to talk to him today. The numbers speak for themselves. This guy, over the course of the summer, serviced $1.52 million in serviced revenue. That equates to a total of 1,730 accounts. Yes, that's right. You heard it right. 1,730 serviced accounts. Give me a bucket. I'm going to be sick. Please welcome on the show, Marshall Hawks. Marshall, how you doing today?
Hey, dude, doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk to you. I'm going to do my best to pick apart how you made this happen. It's almost inconceivable, just to give everybody a reference to how crazy this sales number is. My personal sales office this summer, I hit a golden door, $650,000 of service revenue, and our whole team combined, 15, 20 guys, we did just over 1.5 million. So Marshall did the same amount of our total sales office, grinding 6 days a week, every single day. He did that all himself alone. Whereas it took me, 15, 20 guys to all go out there and do it together. So it really is amazing what he's achieved. So I'm going to do my best to just open up the hood and figure out, how you made this happen. So anyways, Marshall, let's talk, man. We gotta get serious here, man. We gotta figure out how this was done. Let's start with your childhood. Just go all the way back. Talk to me about your story, your childhood. What were some things that happened that you think leaked into success in sales?
Yeah. Gosh, that's a good question. I think playing sports my whole life definitely had a lot to do with it. I played football, played basketball, ran track. Being a small guy on the sports team as well, where, I wasn't the most talented guy, but I knew that through work ethic and just determination and having that tenacity, I could oftentimes outperform or carry my weight, and kind of being the odd one out, the guy who's not counted in, to be able to earn a starting spot, on the starting basketball team or the starting football team or whatever it was. I didn't start basketball. I actually gave up basketball in junior high, but football for sure. And then, if you've played football or those that have, I was a defensive back. So they're a certain type of breed. You have to be willing to stick your nose in there, and play defense and make contact. And so I think that had a lot to do with, my growing up and being successful in sales. Ever since I was like 8 years old, I really had this entrepreneur spirit to me. Both my parents were working. I didn't come from very much. Both my parents were on, modest incomes. And after school, they would drop me off at my grandma's house to do yard work and to be she was supposed to babysit me, but she would put me to work. And that's where I started to make my first money. She'd pay me $8 an hour to go out and pull weeds or plant flowers or do something in the yard. And eventually I grew that into a small landscaping business throughout high school, mowing as many lawns as I could. And so just having that appreciation towards money and understanding like what it truly means when you have to kind of go out and put your own blood, sweat, and tears into earning it, from a young age. I served an LDS mission, in which case, it was instilled within me from a very young age that I had to pay for that. And so that meant, saving up $10,000, $12,000 by the time I graduate high school. So all those little things, I think, together, on top of maybe having 3 brothers and 0 sisters and always just, arguing and debating over this and that, kind of instilled within me this salesman character, So
Got it. Got it. Okay, so you're a bit of a bona fide hustler. And talk to me about your recruiting story. So how did you end up in door-to-door sales? You obviously went, you did your mission, you come back. Talk to me about, how you got recruited. What's that story like?
yeah, so I come home from my mission and I'm hanging out at a friend of my dad's house. And this guy starts talking to me and he's just like, hey, you should come do sales. We've got a company. And that's when my first introduction to a commission-based job was versus an hourly. And he explains that idea of, instead of trading, time for money, just trade your effort and your energy and your skill set. And if you get good at it, you can make more in 1 hour than, just trying to be the best you can on an hourly rate. And so that was for a solar company here based in Utah, really close to home. And it was a setter position. So my job was just to go door to door, set up appointments. They were free of charge for the homeowner to come sit down, and then a closer would come and run the appointment. And then I eventually transitioned after that first summer into two more summers of closing those appointments as a closer.
Okay. Okay, got it. So got into solar, and tell me about your trajectory in your sales career. So how did you do in solar? How was your first year? Did you find, success right away? And then how did you get into pest control?
Yeah, with the setter position, I found success pretty quick because I knew it was just a numbers game, and it wasn't all that hard to maybe close somebody on the idea of sitting down for a free estimate. So I'd get 7 or 8 a day, doing that during the summertime. When I transitioned into closing, that's where I realized I had bit off more than I could chew, and I had a big learning curve ahead of me. It was funny. I was 21 at the time. All my coworkers around me. This was before the days of solar today, where it's vastly different. All my coworkers had been in the sales industry for probably 5 or 6 years. They were all in their mid-30s and had families and kids, and I was by far, probably by at least 10 or 15 years, the youngest one on the team. And dude, I struggled. I mean, I think I worked for 4 weeks, like 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock, first one in the office, last one to leave, before I sold my first deal. And I just remember like having this determination in my mind where I could see the guys around me that were closing deals. And I'm like, gosh, if they can do it, I can do it. There's no like height requirement or weight requirement or muscle size that they need. Like it's just sales. So what are they doing that I'm not? And there was a pivotal point where I just started really paying attention to what the top performers were doing, would go out at any chance possible and go shadow them, record their conversations, write them down when I got home, memorize them verbatim, and just really invested and just went 100 miles an hour in the sales direction of learning as much as I could. And eventually I sold my first deal 4 weeks in. And then as soon as I got the first one, the next week I sold 3, the next week I sold 5, the next week I sold 8, and it just snowballed and continued from there forward. So I ended that summer as a top rep in the company, even though the first month I had 0. And then I came back for 1 more year of closing deals. Same thing, except for this time I didn't have that runway. I could just hit the ground running from the start. But that second summer, I had met a friend going to college who was doing pest control, and he and I make a bet. He's trying to recruit me, and I'm like trying to kind of recruit him. And we have this bet that's basically, hey, whoever can make $100,000 the fastest, the other one has to come sell with them next year. And I didn't agree to it completely. I just said, well, I'll come in and I'll listen. If you can beat me to 100,000 in earnings, you know, we both have to start when school gets out, because we were going to the same college. And he goes out to New York and he starts selling pest control. And I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks into the summer, he texts me and I'm like, are you kidding me? I think I was at like 50 or 60K in commissions. And, so that opened my eyes. I was like, there's no way this guy's better than me. There's no way, like, it's just got to be, there's something up with pest control. There's something I'm missing out on, something I don't know about. Let's go learn about it. And then I dove right into pest control that next summer. So,
Okay, got it. So you did 2 years solar before switching to pest?
I'd call it 2.5. Got a half a summer knocking, setting appointments, and then two summers of closing, you know.
Okay, got it. So now you're transitioning into pest control. And so what year are we at now, your first year in pest control?
This is 2019, I get into pest control.
Okay, and then tell us about your journey in pest control.
Yeah, it's 2019, I get into pest control. I have no idea what I'm doing. This is completely foreign land for me. But I thankfully had my friend who, I think it was his 5th summer knocking. He had just come off of doing about 500 accounts the summer prior. And he had a goal to do over 1,000 accounts that year, which at the company I was a part of called Fox, that was like a big thing, I guess, right? It was 1,000 accounts. I didn't even know about Golden Door. I ended up actually not knowing about Golden Door until like a month or two before the door-to-door convention. But so he goes out to go do 1,000. I'm with him. You know, we're going neck and neck from the very beginning. I think my first week I sold 37 or 38 accounts, and he sold 45 or 46 accounts. The next week, similar story, but I think it's a little closer. I break 40. He's still in the 40s. And everybody starts calling me saying, hey, dude, like, you need to change your goal. And at the time, I didn't know what my goal was supposed to be, because it's hard to make a goal sometimes when you get into like a new space and you have no idea. You're like, well, I don't know what I'm capable of. So I had a goal. I had wanted to sell about 600 accounts that year. But everybody that was calling me in leadership was just pressing me to up it, and said, dude, you have to go for 1,000 accounts. Like, why not? You're selling just as good as this other guy. He's going to go do 1,000 and we all believe in him. So like, let's just see you do it with him. And that was a big thing. And so we ended up selling, you know, together all summer. We moved from one market to another, did a little bit of preseason. And then I remember the leadership trip was coming up and I was doing the math and I realized, like, let's not just do 1,000. Let's do 1,000 before. This was like a fun thing I like to do with myself, is I'll like torture myself and I'll make my goal harder than it originally was sometimes. So like, I'll have a goal and I'll change it and I'll change it again. I'll make it harder if I need to make it harder, just to continually stretch my limit. And I said, let's make sure we get 1,000 before the leadership trip, because I really don't want to have to come back after, even though our leadership trip was to happen in the middle of August. And, you know, most knockers knock all of August, even sometimes into September. So I did that. And then he was a little bit short of his goal. I finished the summer with about 1,100 accounts. And then he went back out in the postseason to get his 1,000. And I went out with him because I figured, why not? And that's when I put on another 100 accounts and finished with 1,200 that year.
So 1,200 your first summer knocking pest control, 2019.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you came out absolutely swinging. Buzz question, why do you like pest control more than solar? What were some of the differences that you liked?
Yeah, I liked that I had complete control from start to finish on the entire sales process. As a setter, you could go out and set up a ton of high quality appointments, but then you're leaving that commission in the hands of the closer to actually close the deal. And I experienced that. And I experienced the ups and downs with that of turning it over to a high performing closer and a low performing closer. And then on the flip side, as a closer in solar, you needed your schedule. You wanted your schedule to be full of appointments. But if you have setters that are setting, junk appointments, or they're not keeping you busy because they're not performing, then your commission kind of rises and falls on that. So in pest control, it was just, hey, I can go out, and even though I'm not making, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on a commission check, I can go out and in one day, on average, sell 10 accounts. Like that was my number. So I can go out and in one day I can sell 10 accounts. And if I sell solid, high quality, clean accounts, I'll get paid on 85, 90% of them. And I'll make consistently the $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 that I might make on a solar deal, but without the ups and downs, or not as many ups and downs. So I liked that. And then I liked the ownership model, and that's why eventually, we'll probably get to it, what went into ownership right after that.
Yeah, so let's get into that. So you had a great first year selling pest control, and then a couple years in a management role. Talk about, just your journey right up until this last year.
Yeah, so after 2019, doing over 1,000 accounts, that kind of opened the door to be able to go into branch ownership. I ended up partnering with that friend of mine, Jerem Scholes. We opened a branch together, recruited a good sized team, I think 40, 50 sales reps that first year. And then we just continue to grow and scale that branch into a larger and larger area during 2020, 2021, 2022. And then in 2023, the company we were a part of, Fox, got purchased and acquired. So that gave me an exit. And basically they take the golden handcuffs off you. They give you a stack of cash, and you have all your freedom to do what you want to do, because that journey's over. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the journey again. Some of the owners did. But at that point, I just kind of said, well, we'll just kind of play it year by year for now.
Right. Okay. Now, you glanced over 2022, which I know you also hit a golden door in, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So talk to me quickly about that year. Obviously, you had your manager years, 2020, 2021, 2022. What was the motivation? What was the mindset? Why did you go out there, hit a golden door?
Yeah, 2022, we had lost some guys in our sales group that it felt like the area had taken a little bit of a dip and wasn't as good as it used to be, and had maybe seen greener grass in other pastures. And just having a chip on my shoulder, I wanted to show them that area does matter, but it's not everything. And that the area we had to work with was good enough to still do a golden door inside of. And so that kind of served as my motivation, along with just seeing from the outside. It was different. I was an owner, so I had all these other responsibilities. I couldn't just commit my full daily schedule to just knocking anymore, but I had to watch. One thing that I love, I'm close friends with him, Josh Zuniga. That first summer I did 1,200. He did 1,500. I didn't know about it until like a few weeks before Door-to-Door Con. So I was like, gosh, dang it. Like, me and him, he probably could have done more, and I could have done more if we had known about each other, earlier on in the summertime. And so just being an owner where I couldn't step in the arena with the top dogs in the industry and actually go toe to toe, because I had all these other important responsibilities on my plate, that restricted me from being able to do that. But I still wanted to try to hang with them. And so I went and did Golden Door in 2022, which was, a lot of people don't know this, I would say it was almost as hard as this year was. 1.5 million looks really cool and it grabs everybody's attention. But that year was like the sleeper year, where like I did Golden Door, did I think 850 accounts, just over 650,000 in revenue. But I did it while wearing the ownership hat from about 9 o'clock till 3 or 4 every single day but Saturday. So I wouldn't get on the doors till usually 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes even 5, 6 o'clock, any chance possible to go out and go knock doors. So it took me longer to get Golden Door because you only had so many hours every day to work with. And then Saturdays were my big day where I would try to catch up. So I think I only averaged like 30 accounts a week, which for me is, that's really low. I averaged, I think 30 or 35, to get Golden Door that year. So
just why did you feel the need? Like, obviously, you had your ownership hat on. Sounds like you were genuinely doing a lot of things that an owner would that prevented you from getting on the doors. Why did you decide, hey, 5 p.m. I'm going to hit the doors every day till 9? What was the mindset there?
Yeah, I think, I call it why stacking. So you have to have multiple reasons. I think the deepest reason behind all of it was why not? Like that's probably the reason I do a lot of things is like, if I think I can go do it, let's go do it. Otherwise, maybe I'm just telling myself I can, and I really can't, So for me, it was like, why not go out after 5 o'clock and go put on some free accounts for my company that I don't have to pay a sales rep a commission on. As an owner, we take a small commission. So that's a little bit of extra money in my pocket at the end of the summer to continue to fund real estate investments or buy a house or just get ahead in life. And I'm growing the business. And on top of that, I can have a chip on my shoulder and go get Golden Door with no excuses. I think that's probably the reasons why.
I love that, man. Unbelievable. And then 2023. So you told me earlier that you sold and serviced 500 accounts in 8 weeks. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
That's bonkers. So you almost hit a Golden Door in 8 weeks. Crazy. Yeah. So tell me quickly about that year.
Yeah, that year was that year was like the honeymoon year. I mean, the company I was part of, we had just got acquired in April, which was kind of a surreal experience. I mean, like I said, they take the golden handcuffs off you, they give you a stack of cash, and then you have your freedom to do what you want to do. Now, we had an earnout portion with that. It was contingent. So in order for us to get the full purchase price of the company we owned, we had to go out and perform a few metrics that next summer. So 2023, I decided just let's go make sure we get the earnout. Let's go out and throw down for as long as we need to. And that's why I kind of cut it short at 8 weeks, as we had already at that point, I think in the summer, realized we were for sure definitely going to get the earnout. And so I went out mid-April to mid-June. And I started the first 4 weeks in outskirts of Boston, and sold about 250 accounts those first 4 weeks. And then last 4 weeks transferred over to Westchester County, where our other branch was, and sold the rest of them. And then we hit the earnout, and I was off to Brazil for 4 weeks after that.
Unreal, man. I could do a whole podcast on your 2023. But we got bigger fish to fry. But I got a buzz question for you. Can you disclose how much you walked away with after the acquisition?
I can't. Legally, I can't. I mean, it's in the 8 figures, though. So and you can look up what Fox sold for. We sold the entire company sold for over $350 million. So.
Wow. Congrats, man. Congrats. I got to get into finances with you. And before we go into this monumental year, how much money did you make this past summer on your 1.5 million?
Yeah, I made over 7 figures.
That's crazy. Just on personal commission.
Just on personal commission.
Gross. Okay, man, let's get into it. Talk to me about this past summer. Like 1.5 million, absolutely bonkers. You had your honeymoon season. Like, what was the mindset going into this past summer?
Yeah. So I think everything started back in August, of 2023. 2023, I sell 500 accounts, and I needed to do some soul searching. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next in life. I mean, the handcuffs had been taken off. And so that's part of the reason why I went to Brazil, was just to kind of do some soul searching and figure out what was next in my life. Did I want to stay in door to door? Did I want to take it a year at a time? Did I want to start another business or branch into a different career path? Um, and this thought just kept coming back into my mind, which was like, you need to go touch your ceiling. You've never touched your ceiling. You kind of touched your ceiling your first year. And we know what ceiling means, right? Like, just go max out, like, in 1 year, and like in one full summer, count some preseason and some postseason. What could you go do, not to prove it to other people, but to prove it to myself, like what I was actually capable of? And I think a lot of that actually came from a recruiting meeting I had with a sales rep 2 years prior. We had met together, and we were signing reps back on for the next summer. And he asked me, he said, Marshall, do you feel like you're better at pest control right now than you were your rookie year? And I was like, oh, 100%. I mean, I've been doing it now for 3 years. I'm way better. I didn't even know what I was selling. I did 1,200 accounts on excitement and adrenaline alone, right? Like, didn't even really know what I was doing. Is like, how many accounts do you think you could do if you were to go back in time and do it all over again? And you could ask, and it took probably all of like 2 seconds to respond. I was like, 2,000, like, not a doubt in my mind. Like, I would go for 2,000. I mean, back then everything was aligned, the attention was on accounts. It wasn't on revenue. And there was just so many things that were aligned. And I was like, if I could go back in time, I would go do 2,000 accounts. And it was a cool idea, but it never seemed real to be able to go do it because I was an owner. And so fast forward to April 2023, a company sells, and that idea just starts to trickle back in and creep back in the door. And so that was my goal, was to go touch my ceiling first and foremost, and just leave everything I have out on the field so that I could walk away from like knocking doors and have zero regrets about it. If I move on from door to door, zero regrets. And so I decided, well, I don't know what I want to do long term, but come 2024, again, this is in Brazil, I have this realization, come 2024, I'm going to go do as many accounts as I humanly can possible. And so I came home, and I started mapping things out, and I was like, well, I started talking to some mentors and some close friends of mine. One of is now a business partner of mine today, Thomas Lundberg. And he's like, dude, you can't do 2,000 accounts. Like, 2,000 accounts would be cool, but today it's revenue. That's all guys care about is revenue. You got to go do like 2 million. And I was like, okay, so but I'm an old dog, so I don't care too much about revenue. I get it. Like, I understand it, but like, accounts also, I think, brings some type of weight with it. Because markets are different, and some companies sell bi-monthly and quarterly, and you can't control all of that stuff. And so I said, well, let's do both. Let's go do 2,000 accounts and 2 million in revenue, and let's do it by October 1st of 2024. And so that was the original goal going into 2024. It was never to break the record of 1.5, barely. It was to do 2 million and 2,000 accounts, and do it with the highest quality, cleanest route possible, with high retention, be full transparent about it. I mean, I sent you my back ends. I plan on posting all my back ends as soon as my last one comes through, which will be in a couple days. And retain, 1.5 million. Like, that was kind of the idea. is just go out on the loudest possible bang I could go out on. And so then we went to work come 2024, and different challenges came up, and it didn't work out that way. But yeah.
Wow, man. I got goosebumps, man. You got to put that on a t-shirt, touch your ceiling. So you have this revelation in Brazil. Hey, I gotta push it to my absolute limit. And then on the lead up, so you mapped it out. I assume by what you mean by map it out is like, how many do I need to sell per day? You know, like where am I going to be knocking, that sort of thing, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Were you doing anything to prepare for what you were about to do? You know what I mean? Like the same way that someone prepares to run a marathon. Like, were you doing any sales training? Were you doing affirmations? Were you doing anything at all? Or was it just all just like inner belief that you were going to make it happen?
Well, I felt like I had already touched my ceiling in terms of like skill set, like that, like, yeah, there's things I could improve on here and there, but like for the most part, I had mastered my craft at selling pest control on the doors. But I spent a lot of time mapping areas. So I wanted to do the 2,000 accounts and the 2 million. I wanted to do it for my home team. I wanted to do it all with Fox, with the home team jersey on my back. It didn't work out that way. So we put together a game plan together, and we looked at a couple options. Like you said at the start, I am my own sales team in a way. I demand a lot of area, a lot of flexibility, different terms. And so we came together. We ultimately decided that I was going to go campaign, a one of a kind, first of its kind, door-to-door campaign program for home team. Because that's who bought Fox. That's who acquired Fox. And we thought it was going to be incredible because we'd have, all of South and North Carolina to ourselves to go knock, given their footprint. And I'd have tons of area to work with. A lot of different challenges came up as soon as boots hit the ground and I got out there and started running, but nothing relationship-wise or people-wise. They were fantastic to work with and treated me amazing. It was just two puzzle pieces that didn't work together too well. A company that's old and been around for a very long time, and a door-to-door guy who's used to his, pest routes and sales routes and having things a certain way. So a lot of different challenges I tried to work through and make it work for far too long. And ultimately we just mutually decided, hey, this isn't probably going to get Marshall to where he wants to be this year. Let's part ways. And that's when I went back into selling for Fox and went up to Washington, D.C., started selling Fox. Got back on a pretty good groove, selling, 40, 45 a week, but still wasn't doing super good. DC is a pretty competitive market. And after a couple months, I decided, I'm just going to break off and go do my own thing. And I partnered with Thomas Lundberg, and we went out and opened a satellite branch for Ninefold on a marketing arrangement. So,
got it. Wow. So you had to jump around a little bit to make it happen. But I'm curious. So going just back to the preseason, you mapping it out, how far did you go? Did you map out your entire summer? Or was it like a month or a month and a half? Like, how far did you go in terms of mapping it out?
Dude, it was a lot of wasted work. I mapped out almost every area possible to go knock in almost South and North Carolina. Just so not that I was going to go knock all of them, because obviously there's no way, but so that I could see from a 10,000 foot view, the good, the better, and the best, and what maybe I wanted to spend my time in. How many accounts did I think, hey, if I went into this city, how many accounts do I think I could pull out of that city at a certain clip, right? If I'm averaging 60 a week, I'll only be able to be there for so long, so that we can help manage expectations with our operating partner, home team, on, hey, this is how many you're going to be able to expect coming from Marshall on the sell side.
Got it. So obviously that's a key thing, just like mapping out your entire summer as a high performer. That's a big takeaway. But Okay, so now let's get into it. So you decide you're going to do this. You map out your year. When did you start?
Yeah, I started in February. Yeah.
February. February
Well,
1st?
I did a preseason blitz in January, but then I had to take some time off to get licensed and everything, and then got back on the doors about mid-February, and that's when I started kind of more rocking and rolling.
Okay. Okay. So mid-Feb is kind of your official start. And then let's break it down, man. So what did the day-to-day look like? When were you getting on the doors? How late were you staying out there? What was kind of the day in the life?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be on the doors as early as possible. So most days that's 9 o'clock if I can, but really no later than 9:30 in the morning. And then I'm on the doors all day, no lunch breaks. I'll either be on a Segway or a scooter. I'm not on foot very often, and I'll just have a backpack or something attached to one of the two with granola bars or trail mix or whatever to snack on throughout the day. And then I'm knocking until as late as possible. So depends on how many callbacks I have at the end of the night. Um, but I knew it was going to be a marathon, you know, but I didn't want to treat it like a marathon. So I did definitely try to sprint every time I could and just give everything you had to give on that given day. Some days that's 80% because all you have to give is 80%. But I have my non-negotiables I talk about. So my non-negotiables are, hey, I am never to my area later than 9:30 in the morning. Like hand on door, 9:30, I have to be knocking my first door. And then I'm not leaving my area any earlier than 8:30 in the evening, period. I don't care how bad the day has been, how bad the weather is, if it's raining or whatnot. Like I'm in my area till 8:30 in the evening.
Okay. So no breaks. So like what are you starving out there and you're just eating a lot at night? Like what was your kind of routine with that?
Dude, I lost 30 pounds. You know, I lost 30 pounds, and I'm not a big guy. Like you can see me in the frame. I think right now I'm 185, but I came home at like 150, like a buck 50, because I don't go to the gym. Like everybody's process is different. I need my full 8 hours of sleep. Like I need all eight, and I usually wake up about 8 o'clock, and then I roll out of bed. I make a quick breakfast. I keep the time between when I wake up and when I'm on the doors to as short as possible. I ideally, if I didn't have to eat breakfast, it would be roll out of bed, put my shoes on, get in my car, and go to the doors. Like I just get anxiety if I'm waiting longer than that. There's no gym, there's no working out almost all summer. Maybe on a Sunday or something, I'll go get a light workout if I can. Um, and then yeah, I mean, and I don't even eat a big breakfast. And then dinner is where I'm usually, pounding the calories to catch up.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, that's one I think misconception that a lot of like people have is top tier salespeople like yourself that are going for something just so ginormous and just something that you have to be so obsessive about. There's no room for really anything else, right? There's no room to go to the gym. There's no room to get the perfect morning routine. It's like kind of everything you think about and devote your life to is just getting out there, knocking your hours and giving it all you got, right? It's funny, like I found a direct correlation with, I was working out, I was going for like a little workout every day. But funny enough, like once I kind of was like, okay, my numbers started to slowly go down. I was like, I got to just like get back to it, get out there on the doors and grind all day. My numbers went back up, but it's kind of counterintuitive, you would think, because, okay, why are the numbers going back up? But I stopped, working out, going on runs. So it's just kind of a funny little misconception there. But
Yeah.
okay, so you're going out all day. First, let me get the groundings here. You're not managing a team. You're kind of going solo. You mentioned you're rolling with a couple guys who are just rolling with you, throwing down just to kind of, grind with you. Is that kind of the situation?
Yeah. So when I left my previous company and I partnered with Thomas and started Ace Marketing, um, we had 5 or 6 guys out with us. Some of them were my recruits, some were his, but they were experienced guys. I think we had a couple rookies, but they were like low maintenance rookies. I mean, they were the type of rookie that one of them was my brother. I told him, I said, hey, like, you're going to come out and here's all the stuff you need to learn before the summer. And just don't be a distraction to me. Like, just, you're going to work from 9 to 9. And honestly, like, maybe you would have done better if I had like been in a mindset to really train and develop him. But I think just being surrounded by top tier sales reps, I mean, he ended up doing like 350 accounts as a rookie just because he was on the doors at 9 o'clock. He was off the doors at 9 o'clock. Saturdays, full day Saturday, 9 to 9 Saturday, all of that stuff really helped. And so we had 6 or 7 guys on the team out there with us this summer. But they were low maintenance. And I think we finished. We had 2 guys who did Golden Door as well, in addition to me. They both did over 1,000 accounts. Ryan did $1 million in revenue. The other, his brother Austin, did, I think, 800,000 in revenue. So it's cool. We got 3 guys, and then like the other 4 still threw down, but 3 of the 7 did 1,000+ accounts.
It's almost like an experiment you guys had. Like, hey, what if you just have a sales office where there's no correlations? You just grind and go out there and produce and lead from the front, sales volume, versus an office where you have your daily correlations, you do your training, you sell a little bit less. I don't know. That could be the way,
Yeah, I am anti-correlation. I mean, guys that they recruit on, hey, well, we're actively engaged all summer. You're going to get tons of training during the summer as well as before the summer. I'm like I'm okay with training in the summer, but it should be like 10 o'clock at night. Come over to my apartment and let's role play and record stuff. Send it to me and I'll critique it on Sunday. Why are we waiting till the middle of the football game to study the playbook and to train? Like, you need to make adjustments, but like that stuff that happens before the summer, in my mind, so.
That's an interesting take, man. I mean, the numbers don't lie, but yeah, no. So how did you guys just have a group chat and you just kind of like clock in, clock out, post your sales in the chat? Is that kind of how you stayed connected?
Yeah, we had a group chat for like coordinating tech power and all that stuff. But I just found, dude, like, I have found the most effective time on the doors is the morning. Like, there's like, again, I could be wrong and some will disagree with this, but over my 6 years of knocking doors and trying everything, I will give up an hour in the evening for an hour in the morning. I would rather be on the doors at 8:30 in the morning than at 8:30 at night. Because 8:30 at night, you can spoil your neighborhood. So you can start to actually annoy people that maybe would have bought if you had got them at an earlier time in the day. And now they don't even want to hear from you or deal with you, and it's too late. You can still pull out sales, but I think dark is for your callbacks, the people that are planning on you coming back or expecting you. But those morning hours, I don't know what it is, but I think it's like, that's prime time. If there's a prime time, it's not 5 to 9, it's 9 to 12, or 8:30 to 11:30. To put it in perspective, I had a day, not this year, but last year, and that year I did in 2023 when I did 508 weeks. I had a day where I had 6 sales by 9:30 in the morning. And then I had another day where I had 11 sales by 11 in the morning. Bro. So I think there's something to it. People are getting up. They're looking to be productive. They haven't quite started their day, or all their work meetings haven't yet started. And so, and nothing's really happened or interrupted their day to put them in a bad spirit, that they're looking for something to do. And when you knock on their door, if they have any interest, this is almost something like that makes them feel productive with their day.
I think you're onto something there, man. Because I hit my golden door November 27th, so it was late in the season. So it gets dark here up in Canada 5 p.m. So I was getting on the doors 9 a.m. every day, kind of working like a 9 to 5, 9 to 7. And yes, man, those early sales are 100% out there. I totally agree with you. And I also think, to add on to your points there, is the momentum it does for you when you get that 9 a.m. sale, 9:30 a.m. sale, and you're at 2-3 sales before noon, or like you said, like 11 before 11. Like, holy man, like those turn into your biggest days by far, right?
100%.
So I think you're onto something there. Okay, so anyways, you're on the doors. One other thing, I just want to pick that apart. What advice would you give sales managers out there, given what you just said? For instance, I run a sales region, 100 guys, right? Like, what schedule would you do with that amount of guys? Like, would you recommend Xing out correlations? I just want to hear your take on like how you would run a sales office if you were running, a 25-man team, a 30-man team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have a first year only correlation, and you do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Wednesday, with an open invite to like anytime you guys want work, come over. Like, and maybe you go a little heavy in the beginning of the summer where you're doing, 3 or 4 correlations a week. But like, I think meetings are pointless, that are too long, and they oftentimes just, you're meeting to meet, and not actually get substance from them. And as the summer progresses, you have to ask yourself, like, who actually needs this, and who is this robbing from time on the doors? And if they feel like they really want to be there, I don't know. Like, that's how we would do it. Is we would be like, hey, if you're selling a certain amount per week, you do not need to come to correlation. In fact, we don't want you at correlation. We'd rather have you on the doors because it's going to help you hit your goal. And then if you're first year and you feel like you need more work, then come to correlation. But just try to make those meetings short and as effective as possible. And if you did, I know companies that do midday correlation, like get on the doors early, and then we'll meet out in the field versus at the office. We'll get close together at a gas station or a park and do a breakdown real quick for 30 minutes, and then everybody goes back to their area. I love stuff like that versus wasting that 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock morning time with guys just all meeting at the office.
Interesting, man. That's going to ruffle some feathers, but I love it. Okay, so the day-to-day, how many sales are you trying to achieve every day when you're out there? What was your kind of daily average?
Yeah, I mean, I always want 10 or more, but I don't put too much weight into a number per day. I put weight into a number per week. So, because I've recognized I've had a day where I sold 17. I worked my tail off 9 to 9 as hard as I could. I sold 17, and then the next day I sold 3, and I worked just as hard. Nothing changed. And then the next day I sell 15 or 16. And so that experience taught me that, okay, I'm only in control of so much. Like, I can't play God. People aren't going to buy just because I want them to buy. They have their choice. Timing is a real thing, right? Catching people at the right time. And that's what helped me have a 34 day is, people say, dude, how do you sell 34 accounts in a day? And I look at them, I say, dude, no different than you sell 21 or 22 in a day. Like, I had probably 3 or 4 days in my career where I sold 21 accounts, and then I had a 34 day, and it just came out of nowhere. Well, nothing really changed. I didn't feel like I did anything different. It was just I was catching the right people at the right time, and a lot of stars were aligning. So for me, when I go out, I want to sell more than 10, but it's like I got to sell 60 every week. And that's kind of the number I'm holding myself to is like 60 per week.
Bro, can we back up a little bit? 34 in a day? Like, just run me through that day. Just tell me the story of how that happened.
Dude, that day was crazy. Well, I knew it was going to be a big day. It was on a Memorial Day, so Red Flag Day. I had what looked to me like pretty juicy area to go knock, that I had kind of roped off and set to the side for a couple weeks leading up to it. And so I knew where I wanted to go knock. And I knew it's Memorial Day, so I got to get on the doors as early as possible, because everybody's watching. Like, we do a competition, and everybody's watching the leaderboard. And yeah, so I got out early, and I think I just sold like the first 6 or 7 people I talked to, and that momentum just snowballed. And just using bandwagon, once you've got 5 or 6 people on in a close development that all kind of know each other, you can go, like, I would go back to people later in the evening who told me no in the morning, like a hard no, like they told me no pretty hard in the morning, and your confidence is so high, and now you've signed up Joe next door and Jill next door and John across the street, and you just have that confidence in that bandwagon effect, especially in the Northeast. I'm sure it's similar in Canada. So you can just go right back to your nose, and they might be pretty unhappy that you're there, but
the sales high is just through the roof, I'm sure.
I won't even say anything. I'll just turn my iPad around and put it almost like in their face and show them, and then be like, like, everybody's done it, So
that's incredible, man. So, like, that, it sounds like you were closing every single person you were talking to for the most part, going back to your nose. I mean, like, honestly, like, I don't know how that's 34 people. Were you getting a lot of referrals, or like, just, it sounds like everyone was saying yes.
Everybody was saying that yes. I think I had 5 no's that day. I had 5 people that told me no. I pocket hopped that day as well. So this was one thing I think that helped me, was I had like 17 by 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and I knew I was on track to beat my previous PR of 21. And so I had a decision to make. Do I stay in the same neighborhood in which I've already pretty much milked a lot of the sales out of? And sure, I could probably double, triple knock that door, and if they come home later in the afternoon, I might catch them, and that'll be an easy sale. Or do I just jump into something new that's 15-minute drive away that also looks like A-tier area, like it's A-class area? And so I think I pocket hopped to like 3 or 4 pockets throughout the day that were each, 15, 20 minutes away from each other. And I had, 6 or 7 callbacks that were scheduled after 8. And so I would just knock fresh doors, and then it was callback after callback. I was kind of mad. I should have had 35, but I knocked on a guy's door, and it was his birthday, and they were celebrating. And he literally told me, he's like, dude, I'm interested, and I want to buy from you, but not tonight. Like, come back tomorrow, but not tonight. We're celebrating my birthday. And I was like, no way. Come on, dude. So.
Wow, bro. That's incredible, man. I like what you said there. And that kind of leads me to my next question, like pocket hopped. But I think that's like something that isn't really talked about. But as a top tier performer, it's very important how you manage your area. And it is different than how a rookie salesman with far less, skills is taught to manage their area. So talk to me a little bit about how you managed your area over the course of the whole season. Like, what did you do a little bit differently that maybe, isn't talked about much? You talked about pocket hopped. Were you doing that on the regular? Were you noticing, hey, this area isn't it, and getting to something new just in order to maintain that volume? Like, what was your mindset with how you managed your area over the course of the year?
Yeah, I mean, my buddy Thomas, he puts it best. We don't make money when we're knocking doors. We don't make any money knocking doors. We make money talking to people, right? So trying to be as effective as possible in your use of time to talk to people, and as many people as possible. So that's why I use a Segway or a scooter, right? Cuts down your time between talking to that person and that person. Looking for signs of life. If they don't look like they're home, I'm skipping the house unless it's 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening and I know there's a high probability that they're home. I'm going to use my time more effectively and just go try to find the people that I'm almost certain are home. Because that 10, 20 seconds of knocking and waiting for someone to come to the door, and then they don't come to the door, it's small, but it adds up over the entirety of the day. And so going back to timing, well, to make a sale, you have to catch an interested person at the right time. And somebody can be really not interested, but the next day you could accidentally knock into the same door of a person who told you no yesterday or a couple days ago, and all of a sudden they don't even remember that you stopped by, and you sign them up, and it's timing. So area definitely matters. But like, I find like I manage my area based off of what has been squeezed out of it. Like, I look at it almost like a lemon. Like, has it been squeezed? And have I talked to the majority of the decision makers in that area? And if I have, then okay, let's give that time to cool off, meaning a couple months before maybe we go back through it. But if I hit an area last week and I blitzed through it and I only talked to 10% of the decision makers because nobody was home, and I wasn't trying to waste time knocking on doors just to knock on doors, I can go back in that area a week later when I'm passing by and I notice a lot more cars on the driveway, right? That's kind of like the nuanced area management that I take.
I love that. I love that analogy, because because you're right. We've all had the experience of, okay, you're in an area, all right, you sell, 5, 6, 7, next day 5, 6, 7, next day 5, 6, 7, and then it starts to get to that point where, okay, like I've definitely felt like I've talked to the majority, but there's still like these little houses that I should go hit. You go out there and you have an off day, right? And it's usually that day where you spend that 1-2 extra days in that area where, just what you're saying, like the lemon's been squeezed and it's maybe time to go find a new one. I think it's super important, especially for top performers, right? Because you just said it, you need to be as efficient as possible, with the amount of people you're speaking to. But, okay. Another question for you. How did you break up your day in terms of like, some guys like to go, okay, 9 to 12, I want to get this amount of accounts, 12 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. Like, how did you break that up? Were you going hour by hour? What was kind of your mentality with, how you broke up your day?
Yeah, that's a good question. My first year, I broke up my day. After that, I've never broken up my day. So my first year in pest control, I found it was helpful to time block my day in 2-hour time blocks. So that would look like, okay, I'm on the doors at 9 o'clock. I need to get one sell by 11 o'clock, period. Like, that's the goal. Not to get 10, not to get 8, not to get 20. Let's get one by 11 o'clock. And if I got one by, say, 9:30, and I sold my second door, well, that 2-hour time block would reset. Okay, perfect. Let's forget about the one I have. Let's get one more by 11:30, right? Now, if 11 o'clock comes around and I still don't have a sell, I haven't made one in that first 2-hour time block, then I'm resetting. And I'm saying, okay, it's 11 o'clock. That first day's over. Now it's a new day, 11 to 1. We've got 2 hours to get one account, and it's a new day. And I found that was effective. Now I feel like I don't necessarily need to do that as much because I'm just focused on getting one more, period. Like, it taught me the right habit and the right mentality, which is just to focus on getting one as quickly as possible, right? And not to do it in 2 hours, but to say, hey, gosh, dude, like, why can't I time block every 30 minutes or every 10 minutes, right? I mean, that's literally what was happening on those days where I sold 20 or 30 accounts in a day. Is it wasn't like, let's get one in 2 hours and then reset. It was like, no, I'm selling everybody. That would just complicate, and I would be like wasting time and energy to figure out my time. So now it's like I get on the doors and I just want that momentum you talked about getting one as early as possible in the day. So I want to have one by 10 o'clock, if I can, but I don't sell good under pressure. Like, I just don't. Some guys might, but like for me, I hate pressure. And I put enough pressure on myself having a big goal and I wanted to go touch your ceiling and all, some people are watching you and to see how you do and everything else. And that's why I was not very vocal about it. Some guys come out and they tell the whole world that they want to sell. They want that they're going to go for golden door, and they need that accountability. Well, like all to them, I can't do that. Like that pressure, I put enough pressure on myself. So to me, it's just let's go get one, and then let's go get one more.
I like that, man. I like that. And yeah, I would agree with what you said at the end there. You kind of came out of nowhere. It was all of a sudden like, oh yeah, this guy sold 1,700 accounts. I was like, what? Because everyone else, right? They post the journey and the recognition, and you just kind of were quiet, head down. Yeah, I just did 1,700 accounts, mic drop, which is pretty cool.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Okay, so let's get a little bit more tactical. So what would you say you do really well in your sales process? What would you say is something that you think like you're just the most confident in, whether it's objections, whether it's, closing? What would you say is your biggest strength?
Yeah, I would say identifying who to spend the right time with, or who's right to spend time with, and then closing. I think there's guys out there that are better at selling than I am. Meaning like maybe they can capture more people's interest or build better value or all this other stuff. But when it gets like my selling doesn't start until I'm in the close, if that makes sense. Like I do everything possible to hedge and pre-overcome the objections so they don't arise in the close. But I think selling solar for 3 years where you're selling a big ticket item where you can't just, I talk about there's a difference between signing people up and selling them. It's very easy to go sign people up and tell them what they want to hear, and get their credit card or get their signature and put them on the schedule. And maybe they even get service because you have same day availability and a guy shows up really quick and services their house. But they're not going to stay on at the same rate as somebody who's actually sold. Meaning, like, you didn't have to close them, right? There's all these hard closes out there. Hey, does Tuesday or Thursday work better? And like assumption closes where you're trying to close them and make the decision on their behalf. Ideally, I think somebody is most sold when they make the decision on their own behalf and they close themselves, right? And the best way to do that, in my experience, is through just having a natural conversation flow and giving them opportunity to ask a question or bring up an objection, and then using silence after you've overcome that objection to kind of just put the pressure back on them to make a decision. And I want every person I talk to, this isn't my coin saying, I think it's Grant Cardone, close or be closed or sell or be sold. Talks about until you have closed somebody and they have made a decision, you have done nothing of benefit to that person. You've wasted their time. You've wasted your time. And until they act on that information, you've done nothing of benefit. So even if it's a no, I want them to give me a decision, yes or no. Either's fine. I do not care. Give me a decision. But knowing who to spend the time with to go down that route. And there's time where I look at it and we're in a conversation and I realize like, hey, I could probably get this sell, but it's just not worth my time. And I'm not even sure if I do get it, if they're actually going to stay on for their contract.
That's amazing. Amazing what you just said there. And I resonate with that as well. Like I'm fairly new to pest control. It's like my 3rd year in it. And when I first came up, it was all about the assumptive close, right? And it never resonated with me. And I just started silent closing and felt so much better because, again, it gives them the opportunity to say, okay, sure, let's do it. Now it's on their terms, right? They're the ones saying it. Such a more solid account. So I totally resonate with that. And then talk to me about where you're kind of giving them an option to ask a question. Is it kind of more like they tell you not interested and you say, hey, is it more price or service? Like what's holding you back? Like what are kind of the little strategies you use, lines that you use to allow them to ask that question or to bring up their real objection?
Yeah. So for me, I don't sell a lot on service. I know guys, oftentimes people ask you the price and you go into talking about all the benefits and the features and building value. For me, I build value in pricing the customer. So, they ask me the price. I'll get to price fairly quickly in my sales pitch, and I'll walk them through as if that's the normal price they can anticipate to pay. Hey, normally if you were calling us, we usually charge a deposit just to put you on my schedule. That's $399. And then we come out every 2 to 3 months, and that's $199. And that's just for this basic package here. If you want us to include any of the premiums down here for rodent control or your shed or outbuildings and et cetera, those are going to be a little bit additional. And so they're starting to build this image in their mind of like, holy cow, this is expensive. No way. Like, that's what it's worth. And then when I price drop them, it builds the value for me, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like if you knew nothing about a MacBook Pro computer, if you knew nothing about it, and you could walk into a store and it could show, $100, $99. But if you're not from this country or you're not used to technology, you don't realize how good of a steal that is, right? You don't know. So most people haven't looked at pest control in certain markets. They've never really actually got a price on it. Now switchovers is a whole different thing, but that's what I'm doing. And then I price drop them and I say, however, like I said, I've got a couple spots. I'm trying to just get filled with the other neighbors we have on the route. If I can get you guys done, I'll just lower that charge of $399 and just take $200 off. Get you guys done for $299 today, or $199 or whatever it is. It depends on the interest level I'm gauging from the customer, and I'll price drop them. And you'd be surprised. There's a lot of times as you're going through that, if you're paying attention, I would say maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 15 of my accounts, I don't even have to price drop. They're so sold in going over price and going over the service that they're already agreeing to it, and I'll just watch them. And if I start to see hesitancy, then I'll give them a discount. If I don't see hesitancy, then I'll just be like, yeah, but if we can get you guys done, I'll just include and I'll discount on the premiums. I'll just include all those premiums for you for free. And then that's when I stop talking, is whether I include the premiums or I say, yeah, I'll just drop you guys down to $199. And I'll stop talking, and I call it, let it marinate, let it just sit there. Don't dive into the steak after you've cut it or after you've cooked it. Let it sit there and marinate and let those juices just stay inside. And usually works good.
I love that, man. So would you say majority, like, you silent close most of your customers?
Oh, yeah. I would say the first close that I'm using and implementing is a silent close, in which I'm giving them an opportunity to give me an objection, ask a question, or close themselves. And then if they give me an objection, then I try to overcome that, and I'll use a different close that's coupled with silence, to get them on board.
Now, sorry guys, we're getting a little technical here, but this is just as amazing for me as it is probably for you guys. But I'm just curious, my kind of secondary close is to kind of go for more of a hard close. Like, hey man, tell you what, if I could do this for you, right? Yada, yada, yada. Would you be willing to give me a shot? Is that what you kind of do in your secondary close, or what's your kind of closing process after you get that first no, or you get the let me get a card?
Yeah. I think it just depends on their objection. If they're giving me a stall, right? Like, I need to talk to my wife. I need to know if that's real or not, because I don't want to close that person if it is real. Right. So if it's, hey, I need to talk to my wife. Perfect. If she was cool with this, is there anything else that would be holding you back? So it's an anything else close, right? Is there anything else that would be holding you back? No, that's it. Okay, perfect. Well, your wife, I've never met her. If you told her, hey, honey, I got pest control, you think she'd really care? And if he's like, no, then that's a close in of itself. I'm just saying, hey, let's just do it. Let's do it, man. Like, and he wasn't quite sure when I put the initial silence and pressure on him. But now maybe he is, and he's realizing, yeah, you're right. I don't need to talk to her. But if he's like, no, dude, we always talk about stuff like this. Then I got to overcome that, find out where's the wife. Is she in the backyard? Is she inside? Try to get in front of her, start all over. If it's a not interested, like, objection where they're just not sold on the value to price, I have a value close because I try not to put the technician in a bind and sell on value, because then they have this high standard that they're going to expect from us every time. But I have a value close where I'll say, hey, look, you asked me what I charge, but you didn't ask me what we do. So let me just tell you real quick what we actually do for that $179. When my guy comes out, or I'll even say I oftentimes, like, when I come out, I'll spray around the house, I'll do the garage, and then you guys have a basement. Okay, is it finished or unfinished? And I'll ask some strategic questions to try to build a little bit of value. I try not to, because you don't want to go back to selling when you're in the close. So you're doing it with the intention of being quick and going right back to closing. And I'll say, and that's where maybe I'll ace them, right? Like you're talking about. And I'll say, and I'll do all of that. And gosh, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep our guys busy. If I knock you down another $10, $169, is that fair enough? Or is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fire, man. That's fire. I love it. Just from listening to you, your tonality is very good. Very good. I would say, like, that's top tier. Obviously, you're being cognizant, you're slowing your words down. You're being very articulate. I could see that rubbing off very, very well. You mentioned the other thing you did really well was spend time with the right people. So talk to me a little bit about that. Is it just you get a sense, what are you kind of looking for, I guess, in your intro to kind of figure out whether this is a person that you want to try to sell or whether you just need to kick rocks and go to another door?
Yeah. So, oftentimes I'll give them some type of cliffhanger to see if they ask a question or if they're willing to engage. Because if they're not willing to engage and there's no back and forth, then I know I'm spending time with the wrong person. So that might be, the general, yeah, if we can get you guys done, just get you guys done for like super cheap. And just stop talking and see what they say with it.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like, no, we're good. Okay, I'll push through one or two, no's. Hey, nobody's interested till they at least know what it costs. Like, do you guys have someone coming out right now or not yet? No? Okay. Well, I'll just at least show you. And I'll kind of like sometimes bully my way in and break down the door, if that makes sense. If it's a switchover, I'll qualify them through, making sure it's something that they take care of for the house. Oh, we already have a company. Perfect. Yeah, no, I expect you to have somebody. Most of the homes here had somebody. Is that something that you handle for the house, or a spouse kind of handles? Oh, I take care of it. Perfect. Yeah, so a lot of the neighbors have just been asking, like, I guess how I compare price-wise and service-wise. Do you know who you guys use? Is like Orkin or... No, we're with Terminex. Okay, perfect. Yeah. And then I'll go into, boxing them in, framing them in, and then building contrast. And then I'll qualify them again,
Yeah.
I just try to do a lot more because we're smaller. We have to kind of compete by being different. But even though I'm doing a lot more, we're really not any different on price. And then I'll stop talking and they'll be like, what do you guys charge? Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a little game of cat and mouse. Like, I gotta know. Like, are we here?
You're baiting them, right? You bait them to take action. I do that as well. It's just so powerful, right? And you know what it does? It protects you from just the babbling salesman that just babbles, forces their way into a presentation, starts talking about the eaves and the spray, where the customer is not even interested in the first place, and that you just wasted 5-10 minutes, bulldozing the customer. Where, hey, if you just spit out your intro, bait them, and then it just gives you direction, right? Whether they say how much or whether they say what do you do or whether they say not interested, gives you a whole bunch of direction and lets you kind of pick apart where you need to go, right? So I love that, man. Okay, last thing for technicality, I want to hear your intro, okay? Your first 30 seconds. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So obviously it varies a little bit. Market. If I'm in a competitive market, I might just go straight to a switch over. And then just to kind of set the table, it also varies a little bit on what kind of bugs or pests are relevant to that neighborhood. And I'm taking note of that while I'm knocking. But it might just look something like homeowner comes to the door.
Hey,
Hey, just going to be doing a couple of the homes here, just spraying on the outside. No one's getting anything right now, but they just want to kind of prevent for like ants, spiders, wasps, all the stuff that's coming up here in the summer. If I could get you guys done, just get you guys done for like really, really cheap.
like, what do you guys do?
Yeah, here, let me show you. And then I just try to get them engaged
Wow.
and hand them something. You know?
So it's very much just direct to the point. Like, you're not saying your company name. You're not saying you're not introducing yourself. You're just getting right to, it's like a 10-second intro.
Dude, it's right to the point because I find the more fluff that's in your intro, the more people start to just like zone out and not like pay attention to what you're saying. One of my favorite things to do, especially in the Northeast, because again, markets are so different in cultures and everything, is like when I was in Boston, people are very to the point, right? And if you try to use a half price or super cheap or get you guys done for really, really cheap, whatever type of an intro, it wouldn't work the same because they've got money and they don't care about cheap price. They care about good service, but they do want to know the price. And so I would actually just change that. We're just getting everybody done for the same price.
Mm.
And they're like, okay, so it almost builds in that bandwagon effect through the pricing, and it accomplishes like 2 for 1.
I love that. That's powerful. Okay, cool. Couple more questions. I know we've been going a little bit overtime here, but I want to know. So obviously you had some hardships where you started to switch companies. You had a goal for 2 million. When did you decide, okay, I maybe missed the mark on my 2 million, but I'm going to go for the industry record? Like when did that mindset shift for you? At what point in the season?
Yeah. Honestly, it's a bit more complicated than that. I mean, I would say I was so far. It was in the beginning. I don't usually make a goal unless I'm like 1,000% confident that I can go achieve it, and I'm completely committed. Like for me, the hardest part is deciding to do something, and then the rest just takes care of itself. And it'll be challenging, but the decision to do it is the hardest thing. And so, for the first time, I was really, really torn. This was mid-April. Because I had done the math and I had realized there's no statistical way I was ever going to do 2,000 accounts by October 1st. It just wasn't going to happen. I was so far behind schedule. Things weren't working out in my favor. There was challenge after challenge. And so I said, you know what, I had a couple phone calls with people that are close, that are close to heart. And I decided, and that's when I actually left and I branched off and doing my own thing in a way. That's when I decided, let's just have fun with it. Like, why am I putting this pressure on myself to go do 2,000 counts, 2 million in revenue? My younger brother's coming out. We'll stay out long enough for him to come out, me to teach him the ropes and get him on the right track. And then we'll see if I want to stay out or if I want to call it and just be done. Because at this point I don't think I had touched my ceiling, but I was starting to come up on feeling like I had given everything I needed to give from an emotional standpoint to door to be willing and able to walk away with no regret. And my brother came out, we moved markets, things started to heat up, and I started going from 40, 45 a week to 60, 65, 70 a week. And I was like, okay, well, and I'd already, at this point, I think I'd already hit Golden Door early May, that I was like, well, let's do 1 million. Like, I think there's enough area. The area's good. I'm selling good. So if I'm selling good, it's a drug to me, but it's a drug probably like second to none. I love it. I absolutely love knocking when I'm selling at a high level. I could do it from January to December for 4 or 5 years straight and not even do anything else. I just love it and I eat it all up. And so I was having so much fun with it that I was like, well, let's do 1 million. Let's do 1 million. I've never done 1 million. I think that would be really, really cool. But let's do $1 million and let's do it with really, really high retention. And then we'll cross the bridge when that comes to see if I want to do any more. And then I did 1 million. And then I pushed the goalpost out a little bit further and I say, okay, we're double knocking. We've got a little bit of area left to work with. I really don't want to have to move again. So let's just let's aim to do 1.3 and get the double golden door, and then we'll see where we're at. And if I'm happy, I'm not doing this for other people. I don't care to go set a record for other people. I started this journey for myself to be able to move on from door to door in a knocking area or in a knocking aspect. And then I did double golden door, and I actually went home. I did 1.35 million. I thought I was done. This is like, people don't get this. I did 1.35 million, and I come home, and I'm like done. I threw away my knocking shoes, like I was ready to go, like throw away my Segway that was like, beaten up, and I didn't ever plan on using it again. And 2 days into being home, my buddy calls me, and he's out in Reno, and he's like, dude, you've got to come out here. You're so freaking close to the record. Like, he wanted to see me break it more than I wanted to see myself break it. At this point, I didn't even care about it. I was like, dude, I'm not coming out just because you want to see it happen. But I think one of the challenges was, up until this point, I had been on like week 8 or week 9 of living on my own, like complete isolation. And I know you had talked to somebody on this podcast about that. I remember seeing that, and I was like, it's so freaking true. Like, I was on my own for 8 or 9 weeks, pure isolation, and it killed me. And so my buddy calling me, who's out in Reno, trying to coach me into coming back out and finishing the record and getting the 1.5 million. Him being out there is what sold me on saying, you know what? Okay. And so 2 days into being home, I'm actually like, oh, that's the reset I needed. I just needed to hit the reset button, come home for a couple days, and finally get my bearings on life, catch up on a few things, see some familiar faces with friends and family, and then go back out. Whereas for a lot of people, maybe it'd be the opposite. As soon as you go home, it's done. So
that's powerful, man. So at what point did you go back to Reno? You're at 1.35. What month was it?
This was September. So I came home, and it was like September 1st. I came home end of August. I took a full week off, but it was 2 days in that he'd called me, and I decided, okay, we'll think about it. Let me meet with the owners. Let me talk numbers, and you might see me on the doors on Monday. We'll see.
That's unreal, man. That's unreal. Well, what a story, man. What a story. And then how did you feel when you got it done, man, when you wrapped it up?
Dude, that's a good question. I've thought about that a lot. I think that the textbook answer is like, you feel amazing and it's all worth it, and everything was like, the price you paid was 100% worth it. For me, it was so different. It was such a roller coaster ride that I still question if it was worth it. I think I'm happy that I did go back out and finished it. Like, I'm happy I went out in September and put on another 150, 160K in revenue. Not for the record's sake, but I think 1.5, it's a little cleaner number, 1,700 accounts. I was actually more happy with the accounts and the revenue, because that was like, I don't know if that's ever been done. 1.5 has been done in terms of revenue. I barely broke it in terms of revenue. And I love that I hope somebody breaks my record this next year. I hope that we continue to raise the bar. But for me, I wanted to raise the bar, not only in serviced revenue, but I wanted to do it in terms of accounts. It's like, to me, I recognized early on that like every company's different. Some companies offer, bundled packages where it's, mosquito and pest control are two different accounts. Other companies, it's one account and it's a bundled contract. I think if you broke up my accounts this year on the bundled contracts that show as one account, I actually did over 2,000 accounts. But for me, that's what I'm happy. That's what felt good. Was I said, I hope that I've raised the bar in the industry, not only in terms of service revenue, because revenue matters, but in terms of clean accounts, high quality accounts. That's why I want to be full transparent with all my retention and all of that, and also raise the bar on general pest control accounts beyond revenue, and say, hey, you can go out and go get the golden door, go do the high revenue, but go freaking throw down a ton of volume as well, because revenue matters, but market to market revenue varies. And you've got reps in this industry who are first years, second years, third years, and maybe they own a branch in Texas. They don't have the same luxury to be able to maybe go sell really, really high contract values on a bi-monthly frequency as a sales rep selling for another company up in the Northeast, or whatever it may be. But accounts kind of maybe takes that out of the equation and just, hey, an account's an account regardless of the revenue. So,
yeah, no, that's very true. And I will say, you did send me your screenshots and everything checks out. How important was it for you to, show that you hit this goal and you did it ethically? How important was that?
Dude, that was up there with that was probably the second biggest reason on doing this. Is go touch my ceiling from an emotional standpoint and be able to move on from door to door and knocking, even though I'm staying in door to door, and we can talk about kind of what's next, but be able to move on from strictly knocking and having these big goals and the competitive spirit of wanting to go hang with the big dogs in the door to door arena. But second to that was go do it the right way. Don't sell my soul to the devil on just chasing a number. Do clean accounts that that elevate the industry, and excite your operating partner. Gosh, we've got an amazing operating partner right now that we're working with. And I think if we had sold really, really bad accounts or low quality or had bad retention just at the sake of selling a lot of revenue or a lot of volume, we wouldn't be in the situation we are relationship wise with that operating partner. So,
okay. And have you hit your ceiling? Do you feel like you hit your ceiling?
in door to door, yeah. And knocking on the doors, I think so. I mean, maybe I could go do 35 or 36 in a day. I don't know if there's, but I feel like I've given 100% of what's to give in one big run to chase one big number. So
amazing, man. Amazing. So what is next for Marshall Hawks?
Dude, right now, so we're building, me and Thomas, we partnered together, and we're building and scaling a marketing company called Ace Cooperatives. It's different than a lot of different marketing companies, in the sense that we do recruit first-year sales reps, but we primarily focus on those that are experienced, and just try to make sure that they're in the best situation possible. Creative ways of payment and commissions. I mean, we don't do any back ends. It's just you get all your commission after 60 to 90 days, all up front. So a bunch of different things that we're working on right now, but that's what's next.
It's interesting, man. That sounds interesting. Well, my man, I feel like I could chat with you for another 2 hours. It's been an amazing conversation. And I appreciate you, man. What you did was absolutely incredible, and I just want you to know, don't question whether it was worth it in terms of, the industry giving you your flowers. Like, all of my guys up in Canada here, when they heard that some guy sold 1,700 accounts, it just absolutely 100% raised the bar. And the fact that you're open about it and, you talk about how you did it ethically and you're showing all your numbers, like, it's just super powerful, man. And yeah, man, what would be one piece of advice you would give, a top performer who maybe hit their goal or, sells, 200K, 300K, and they want to get to that next echelon? What would be some, turnkey advice that you would give, that experienced sales rep?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is measuring your performance, not only on work ethic, your mentality and your attitude, and then your skill set, and figure out which of the three needs the most improvement. Because there's a lot of talented sales reps that do 200, 300, 400 accounts that are capable of doing 5 or 6 or 700 accounts from a skill standpoint. They've got the skills there, and maybe they lack a little bit, but they'll figure that out along the way. But they either don't have the self-belief that they can go out and do it, or they do, but they don't have the work ethic and the discipline. And work ethic and discipline, that's where guys die. You got to just stay. For me, it's like, if I can just take the work out of the equation, I'll never spiral negatively down, like, ever. Regardless of, we call it like a negative spiral, where basically you go out, you work really hard, and you don't get the outcome you wanted. And because you don't get the outcome you wanted, your mentality goes down. And then your mentality goes down and you don't work as hard, and the whole spiral repeats. Just take the work out of it. Just say, hey, I'm going to come up with certain non-negotiables that I'm just not willing to negotiate with myself on. And that's going to be this and that. And then give yourself, and then work it backwards. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is like, I came up with 2,000 accounts because I said, gosh, if I can go average what I know I'm capable of averaging at 65 accounts a week, then I can go do 2,000 accounts. But in order to do 2,000 accounts at 65 a week at that pace, I'm going to need to be very strategic in the markets and the areas that I go knock. And that's where all that preparation came from that we talked about at the start. So
Powerful, man. Powerful. Thank you so much, man. It's been absolutely value packed. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Where can everybody follow you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Yeah, so I just changed my handle. It's the Marshall Hawks. The Marshall Hawks.
Okay, the Marshall Hawks. Follow this, man. I think you got a ton of content coming out. Is that right?
Yeah, we just did a bunch of filming for mostly our internal sales reps. But yeah.
Well, an opportunity to learn from the best. And appreciate you guys for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you rate us 5 stars on Spotify. We're on a quest to be the #1 sales podcast in Canada. Marshall, appreciate you again, man. All the best with your future. I'm sure it's going to be very bright, and I'm excited to speak alongside you at Door to Door Con on the panel. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely, man. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. All right, take care.